if we would like to set up the payment term for the invoice, how we will set up. That's what we are going to discuss. Payment term is basically used to calculate the invoice due date. Whenever we are creating an invoice, we will be specifying the payment term. Based on this payment term, the invoice due date will be calculated. Invoice due date will be calculated. Okay. So by default, what happened? The moment when we choose the business unit, we are going to get the default payment term here. We got the default payment term here, immediate. Okay. So this value, how we are getting here, immediate. While working with the invoice setups, we have specified this by default immediate. Okay. So let's see that where do we find this setup and how to create a new payment term. How to create new payment term, and we will attach that new payment term for this business unit here. Okay. So we must be an implementation user. Make sure that you got the permission to create the FSM setups. So let me log in as an implementation user here. Go to setup and maintenance here. Financials. Sony payment term I'm going to specify here and saying that it's valid from January 1st, 2023 invoices, whatever. So I'm going to specify the payment should be done to the supplier within 13 days. We can also specify the fixed date also here, depends on the requirement, or we can set up the calendar also. If you are going to make the payment early, for example, we are supposed to make the payment within 30 days, but we are paying immediately. So in that scenario, we may get some discount also from the supplier. So what are the discount options? What is first discount, second discount, and third discount? These details will be specified here. And once the payment term is created, we cannot assign this payment term directly to the business unit. We have to assign this payment term to the reference data set and assign this reference data set to the business unit. We discussed about enterprise structure, right? Structure, we discussed we have an enterprise first. After that, we have divisions, legislative data group, ledger, legal entity, business unit, reference data set. We are working here right now, business unit. Okay. So we would like to go for assign the payment term to the business unit. We cannot assign this directly to the BU. We'll be assigning through reference data set. Through reference data set. So what is RDS? RDS stands for reference data set. What is the purpose of this? To refer some of the objects to the business unit. We cannot assign this set of objects directly to the business unit. We are supposed to group it and then we will assign the group to the business unit. We have the built-in reference data sets called common and enterprise. Enterprise we don't use. Common set we will be using. If you assign your object to the common set, we will be able to get that from all the business units. Right now, if we look at our payment term, whatever we are working, this I want to assign only for my business unit. I don't want to assign for all the business units. So in that scenario, what are the setups required is first we have to create a new reference data set. Then you have to create a payment term, assign this payment term to reference data set. Then third one, assign this reference data set to business unit. Let's go to invoice page and create invoice. Check the payment term. That's how we'll go for doing. But if you want to assign your payment term for all the business units, what you can do is you can use common reference data set. There will be an option here. These all are different reference data set. You can use common, but I don't want to use this. Okay. So let me just go for cancel this. I'll come back to this page again. So first we are going to create a reference data set. Let's go to reference data set. Manage reference data sets. Click search button. We can find all the reference data sets here. Out of this, when you are working in the project, there will be only two reference data sets. These two. Remaining we have to create. Remaining all are here just for testing purpose. We have to create all this. This is a vision instance. That's the reason we got some built-in. Okay. So when we are working in the project, there will be a two. Enterprise set we are not using. We can completely leave about this. And we will be using common set. So this common set is used to assign your objects to all the business units. Right now, I don't want to use common. Let me create my own reference data set. This is Sony payment term. RDS. You can give any name, just it is a name we are going to provide. So I have created a new reference data set to maintain my payment terms. To maintain my payment terms. Okay. Let's go for create a couple of payment terms. You can keep either one payment term or multiple payment terms in your set. I'm going to create two payment terms here. One is Sony pay in 13 days. Sony payment 13 days. So it's valid from 1st January 2023. And the term is we want to pay 100% amount within 13 days. Okay. And set assignment. What is our reference data set? Sony. Sony reference data set here. We are not getting reference data set name here. Which we have already. Okay. So I think there is a maximum limit that has been reached. Let me create another reference data set. EBC Sony RDS. Yeah, that's the problem is like maximum set has been completed. That's why I have changed the name ABC. So A means alphabet. It comes in the starting position. No issue. That's a application problem. Okay. So what we have done is we created a payment term and assigned to the reference data set called ABC Sony reference data set. Okay. So now here, this Sony term is assigned to the reference data set. So what are the steps required? We created new reference data set called ABC Sony reference data set. Then we created payment term assigned to reference data set. Now this reference data set we have to assign to BU here. So right now this is there, which is 13 days duration. Let me create one more reference, one more payment term, means multiple payment terms will be there. So what I'm trying to do is here, Sony multiple installments. This is valid for the invoices which we create from January 1st. And I'm going to say that 70% of the amount should be paid within 5 days. 30% of the amount should be paid within 10 days. That's the requirement. So let me assign this payment term also to this set. So how many payment terms we have in our reference data set? There are two. There are two payment terms in our reference data set. Right. Okay. Let's go for assign this. Let's assign this reference data set to the business unit. You are assigning your reference data set to the business unit means indirectly whatever the payment terms you have in this reference data set, that will be assigned. There are two payment terms, right? Let's go back to the task business unit. There is a task called business unit set assignment. In the name itself, in the task name itself, we can find business unit. We can find business unit set assignment. You are trying to assign the set means reference data set to the business unit. Okay. So go to business unit set assignment, choose your business unit. We are already in the scope of our BU. Directly we can go to the business unit here. And there are a lot of objects. Which object we are working? Payables payment term. Payables payment term. That's the object which we are working here. By default, common reference data set is there. Now I'm going to assign ABC Sony RTL. So in this reference data set, whatever the payment terms we have, whatever the payment terms we have, that will be assigned for this particular business unit. Let's go for save and close. Then let's go to navigator. And invoice options also we can verify. Manage invoice options. Here I can see Sony term, Sony multiple installments. Immediate payment term we are getting, maybe this immediate payment term is assigned for all the business units. It means while creating this particular payment term, they might have specified the reference data set as common. Reference data set as common, that's why you are going to get. So I need by default, this is for prepayment invoices and this is for general invoices, which we are going to configure. So I would like to have multiple installments here. Even for this also, if required, we can change. Go for save and close. The set assignment for payment term immediate is not complete for this business unit. that we have changed, right? The set assignment for payment term immediate is not complete for this business unit. Okay. Immediate payment term is not assigned for this business unit. That's what system is showing. Let's go back to immediate payment term and check what is the reference data set. This one, immediate. It is assigned for common and not assigned for our reference data set. That's what the system is showing. Now there won't be any problem. No issue. You can use default payment term anything. So the problem was immediate is not assigned for our business unit. That's an issue. Now let's log in as an transactional user, and let's go for assign this payment term to the invoice. Employee is going to log into the applications. When we try to create an invoice here, now we can find payment term default here. This payment term we are getting, which comes from invoice options. And we are going to choose our supplier name here. The moment when we choose the supplier name, we are getting supplier number, supplier site, legal entity, right? And the payment term which we got. We can also apply the payment term at supplier site level. Let me show you. So right now, business unit level, what we have specified is we have mentioned Sony term is the business unit level default payment term. Let me do it at supplier site level. Let's go back to our supplier site level. Go to procurement suppliers here. In the suppliers, search for the supplier, manage suppliers. Go to supplier site. This is the site here. Okay, go to the tab here, invoicing. Here we can specify the payment term. What is the default payment term for this particular supplier site? Sony multiple installment. It means whenever we purchase the goods from this particular site, by default system should consider this payment term. Only for this particular site I have configured. Let me go for save and close and submit. Let me cross check whether it's been updated or not. Go to edit. Good invoicing tab here. You can find it's been updated. I will try to price the invoice for the supplier here. Let's go to Navigator, Invoices. Now we are going to create invoice here. So whenever we create an invoice, we'll choose business unit first. At BU level, whatever the payment term is configured, that will be populated here. Then we are going to choose the supplier name and supplier site. Then whatever supplier site level we have configured, that will be updated. See, the moment when you choose the supplier site, for this supplier site exclusively we mentioned Sony multiple installments. That's why you are getting here. Of course, it will allow you to change. For example, supplier says that it's fine, but this invoice you can pay immediately. So you wanted to change the value, you can change immediately. Okay. So payment term will be configured at three levels: BU level, supplier site level, and at the invoice level, of course. High priority is invoice level. So while creating an invoice, you can change if you want. Then after that, supplier site level. Last option is a BU level. Last option is BU level. Always the lowest level is the high priority. The lowest level is the high priority. BU is a top level. Within that, supplier site. Within that, you got invoice. Okay. So invoice level, if you want to change, you can change. So I'm going ahead with supplier site level payment terms here. Okay. We said multiple installments. 70% should be paid within 5 days, and 30% of the balance should be paid in 10 days. That's what we configured payment term. We are creating invoice today, 28 June 2023. And I'm mentioning invoice amount is $1,000. And the invoice number is, let's say Q1. Let's say Sony_1 is the invoice number. I'm creating standard invoice. We have different types of invoices. We'll be talking about that later. And now invoice information will be entered at line level. Header level will mention BU, supplier, legal entity, amount, currency, payment term, date, terms date. This is all details. And line level will specify the actual expenditure, item cost, freight charges, nothing but any transport charges or any miscellaneous expenses we have that will be mentioned, and also the accounting combination. We are supposed to distribute this invoice amount, whatever $1,000 we have, that should be accounted in a proper expense. Don't have any code. Okay. Let's say organization has purchased some furniture. For that, this is what actually the cost. And headers we have entered. This is invoice header. Then lines information we have entered. This is lines. And then distributions are nothing but accounting configuration. Whatever the code combination we have entered here, that will be inherited at distributions level. Here we can find. This is our distribution combination, which we got furnitures. Let's go for save and close. So invoice information will be entered at three levels: headers, lines, and distributions. Okay, save this. Save the invoice, and then we'll go for validate. While validating the invoice, we may get some issues at this point of time due to tax calculation. I don't think so, because this is our new business unit. We don't get any problem because we have not attached any tax at this point of time. Generally, tax will be calculated in taxes module. Now it's valid successfully, validated. Click on this, we'll come to know the status. The invoice is validated successfully. Accounting is not done. So far, it's not accounted. And payment is not done. Payment also we have not done. Now the due date is this 3rd July 2023. That's the due date. And we are supposed to get the installments information. We can get installments here, manage installments. Manage installments is the option which will show us as per our payment term. We said 70% of the amount should be paid within 5 days. This is 70%. 30% 10 days option we have. So that's why 8th July 2023, 3rd July 2023. That's about the installment system has been configured. So that's how the payment terms option will work, which is very important in account payables. So how to configure the payment terms? When we want to work with the payment terms, first we'll be interacting with our client. What are the different payment terms your organization is doing for the suppliers? They may say some 10 or 20 payment terms because they cannot follow the same payment terms for every supplier. For some of the suppliers, they demand immediate payment. Some suppliers, they say 45 days is okay. Somebody says that 3 months also is okay. Somebody says that we need a discount based on that. We need configuration payment. So that also, like let's say they are telling that 20 different types of payment terms we are following. We need to list out all those. The moment when we are creating the payment term, we have to ask our client. The question is, do you want to assign this payment term for all the business units or you want to assign to the specific business unit? If you want to assign your payment term for all the business units, then create your payment term, assign your payment term to the common reference data set. If you assign your payment term to the common reference data set, then it will be available for all the business units. If client says that, no, this payment term is not for all the business unit, this is for specific business unit, then we have to follow this procedure, whatever we have done last 15-20 minutes. How many reference data sets we can create like this? There is no limit. We can create multiple reference data sets. Obviously, we have to create. For example, you have 4 different business units. There are different payment terms for every BU. Then obviously 4 reference data sets are required. For first BU, create 1 reference data set. Ask our client what payment terms they want to add to the BU1. Keep it in that RDS, attach. Same way for second BU, third BU, and 4th business unit. That's how we are supposed to configure whenever we are working with our payment terms option. Without reference data set, we cannot assign payment term to the business unit. We must create and assign to the reference data set, assign reference data set to the BU. In your reference data set, you can have either 1 payment term or multiple payment terms. We created in our exercise two payment terms we have created. One is Sony terms, another one is Sony multiple. So 2 things we have done and we assigned. That's how we did successfully. Okay. Thank you.